Hello friends. Today's video will cover a very basic endgame concept. In fact, it's the most basic and fundamental endgame idea of all. It's called the opposition. It's the core principle in the king and pawn endgames. So what is opposition? Well, it's a position when kings are facing each other on the file or rank with one square in between them. At that moment, kings are not allowing each other to make progress and enter opponent's part of the board. For instance, if it was black's king to move and they move king to d6, white suddenly gets a chance to move their king to f5 and enter the opponent's territory. The logic behind the opposition is that you don't want to move your king as your opponent's king can make progress. Sometimes this progress does not give an advantage, while in other times it gives a winning position. The side that needs to move the king in opposition is said to be losing the opposition. The evaluation of the position in front of us depends on whose turn it is. With white to play, they're losing the opposition, and so it's a draw. However, with black to play, white will win because they will be able to promote the pawn. Let's see how that happens. First, imagine that it's white to play and black just wants to make a draw. Well, white moves the king to one of the sides in order to slowly progress and push the pawn up the board. In this position, moving back is not good because that would allow white's king to make progress by moving the king to e5. Since white's king is in front of the pawn with the square in between them, white is never going to lose the opposition again. Even if it was white to play right now, he wouldn't be obliged to move the king and lose the opposition because they can simply push this pawn forward. This way they give turn back to black and black has to move the king and then they lose the opposition and then white can win the game. So instead of moving the king backwards, black is going to be winning the opposition. They move king to f6, we have opposition on the board, it's white to move, and black is happy. Well, white is now trying to make progress by pushing the pawn. Of course, if they go back, black's king would just follow, and white is not reaching any progress. After white pushes the pawn, now black goes back to e6, and notice that white is not able to win the opposition by moving the king to e4, as the pawn is on that square. So white tries to make progress and pushes the pawn again. And here, black is already anticipating what could be the next move of white. They see that if they put the king on f7, white's king would be going up, and white would be winning the opposition. We would reach the opposition with black to move. They don't want that. So what they do is they go straight back. Now the only way white can hope to make progress is by moving the king up, so that now the pawn will be supported to move up again. Well, in this position, black moves king f7, we have opposition, it's white to play, black is happy. And so we're continuously using this method as black, we're just blockading the pawn. Now this is the only square where the king defends the pawn. And after a couple more moves, we are going to reach a draw. So king d6 this time, white chooses the left side of the board, black wins the opposition again, e7, king to e8, and notice that if it was black to play in this position, white would be winning, because black's only move that is legal would be to move out, white's king would move up, and subsequently we can promote the pawn. Unfortunately for white, it is white to play, and the only move that saves the pawn is king e6, and we have a stalemate on the board, and black made a draw. Let's analyze the same position in which black is going to be losing the opposition. This time it is black to play, and black is choosing where to move their king. Regardless of where they put the king, every move is going to be objectively losing. Let's pick king f6. Now for white, there is no point in following the black's king, as they would be just dancing tango and no progress can be reached. Instead, white's king right now is going to start making progress and go king to d5. In this position, white tries to reach one of the squares d7 or f7 while securing the pawn. If they manage to reach d7 or f7 with the king, their king would be supporting the promotion square, and then black can't do anything about white's pawn moving up. Of course, we cannot just go straight up with the king and lose our pawn on the back. From this position, black has two ways to defend. They could go king to f5 or go back. Let's take a look at what happens if king goes to f5. White is still winning the opposition sideways, and white is going to use this moment to push the pawn. Black's king is pushed back, white wins the opposition again. Black king moves back, and now there is no point, of course, for us to moving here. That would be a little bit premature because black's king will go after our pawn. So instead, in this position, we're gonna simply push the pawn. Black king goes back and white wins the opposition once again. And now, depending on which color black is going to choose, our king is going to go to the other side, and then the king is going to support the pawn promotion. For example, if black goes left, we go right, and some people like to call it the red carpet. Now pawn goes here, here, and here, and there is nothing that black king can do about it. For example, here, and then check, and then we promote and win the game. Let's go back to the point where black decided to defend from this side. Let's say that black's king goes back. We have, again, a very similar story. We reach opposition with black's king to move, and now wherever black's king moves, our king will be allowed to make progress. Let's say they go to the left side, we're going to the right side. Ideal square is f7 if the pawn is safe. So of course, if it was our move, we cannot once again go to f7 because our pawn is too far behind. So if black king goes to d6, we already have seen a very similar story. Then we would just push the pawn and we repeat what we have done a minute ago. Instead, in this case, black goes to e8. Now we go king to e6. Black chooses, say, the left side. And because we already have two squares in between the king and pawn, we could just push safely once at the very least. King goes back. We have opposition with white to play, and so it might look like it's not good for white, but since there is this square in between the king and pawn, we can push the pawn again. We're going to choose the opposite side than the black's king is going to choose, and then say they go right, we go left, the red carpet, and the pawn promotes. My recommendation is to set up the initial position against Stockfish on one of the servers, leechess.org or chess.com, and then just try to draw this if it's a draw against Stockfish, and win this if the objective evaluation of the position is winning, and just practice this for some time to internalize that knowledge and understand it on even the subconscious level. An expert chess player or anyone who is a good club player level already perhaps is able to do this without even thinking. So each move can take just 1 to 2 seconds. It's just automatic. I hope you enjoyed this short class on a very, very important endgame. This was a bit theoretical, but at the same time essential if you try to grow as a chess player. If you did, please subscribe to my chess channel for more videos. You can also consider hiring me as your personal online chess coach. My contacts are on the right. I wish you a peaceful day and see you in the next video. Bye bye.